Looking back on the NFL Sunday slate in week number 10. It's getting to crunch time. It's the second half of this 2024 NFL season, so the injuries perhaps even more impactful. To give you that injury analysis and insight live on this Monday on the early line, we turn to the doc, the pro football doc, Dr. David Chao, joining us live right here on this Monday on TEL. As always, Dr. Chao, we appreciate the time.
Thanks for having me. Middle of the season, basically. And in general, 85% is a pretty good week right now for health for any individual player.
It's good to know, Doc, because it's not just looking back on crazy or scary or significant injuries that might happen during the middle of the game. It's projecting out the remaining weeks for teams in contention or trying to figure out what the second half of their season holds. For the San Francisco 49ers, a team that entered this year a Super Bowl frontrunner and the NFC title favorites, it was huge to get Christian McCaffrey back on the field yesterday for the first time in 2024. Played a lot, wasn't overly productive on the ground, but still 107 scrimmage yards when all was said and done. He had missed the opening 8 games of this year for the 49ers, dealing with Achilles tendonitis, Doc, in both legs. How did Christian McCaffrey look to you in his season debut?
Look, he looked good. We expected him to look good. The worry, though, he played a lot of snaps, and he did fine. But the worry continues into next week. There is a propensity for early season, ramp-up injuries, acclimation injuries, muscle injuries. Not so much for the Achilles tendonitis. I mean, it happens around the league. You saw the early hamstrings or quads or things like that around the league. Let's hope CMC can avoid that because this is early season for him. His season just started. This is game 1 for him, basically. So hopefully the 49ers can avoid any sort of setback there. But overall, the 49ers are healthier. Debo, even Jordan Mason, Trent Williams, in general, they're healthier.
Doc, looking at some of these players, because I do think it's interesting with Christian McCaffrey. As a medical specialist here, what are you looking for this week out of practice for Christian McCaffrey? Like, are there some things that over the next day or two you'd see if there's any swelling or how he reacts to it, or you just let the player tell you how he's feeling and how his body reacts?
I think it's load management, right? Load management is a dirty word in the NBA because it affects games. But load management happens all the time in the NFL. During the practice week and during games, and it's all monitored, and it's just a continued ramp up of more usage of Christian McCaffrey in a safe way.
Yeah, so Doc, let's go to what we saw yesterday around the National Football League throughout a Sunday slate. I do want to start with Tristan Wirfs, who has been a staple for a Buccaneers team that can ill afford any more offensive injuries with what they have seen this year and how shorthanded they are. Dr. Chao, what did you and your team at Sports Injury Central see yesterday for the Buccaneers star offensive tackle?
From the war room, it looked like a right knee MCL sprain, and hopefully not more. The MCL part has now been reported by national media. The more part, not yet, which we hope doesn't come true. But we see this being a multi-week absence in the best case scenario, and even potentially IR. So Baker Mayfield continues to kind of, stay alive and rally his team. They didn't get the win in the end, but they're snake bit with injuries down in Tampa.
Oh, they certainly are. A couple young tight ends, Doc, I want to talk to you about. Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills and also Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. For Kincaid, it's a knee. For Laporta, it's a shoulder. Any expectations on the length of these, or will they be okay?
Well, Dalton Kincaid returned to the game. He fell directly on his left knee. It's our belief by video he has a PCL sprain. Don't freak out. This is not the same degree of sprain as Puka Nacua. He did try and return to the game, left again, had a brace on. We do see this as a short-term absence, not as long as Puka Nacua from the preseason, missing all the time with the Rams. But it does mean that this game against the Chiefs is in jeopardy, at least, if not a little bit. Sam Laporta, we hope that he can roll through with his shoulder injury. Detroit, snuck out that win. They weren't looking good in the first half, but in the second half, they sure got it done and came back to steal the win.
Doc, quickly before we get to Monday Night Football, to ask about guys like Puka Nacua and the health, of course, for the Miami Dolphins. Just quickly wanted to ask you about Dak Prescott. We got the news earlier in the weekend that his season was most likely done, as he might need to have surgery on his injured hamstring. They said in the broadcast yesterday that he was still maybe seeking a second medical opinion. Where do you fall on what Dak Prescott's season has? Is there any chance we see him again in 2024 for Dallas?
Well, where we fall is where we started with, which is this is a different hamstring injury. It's hamstring tendon avulsion, not hamstring muscle tear, which is just time, rest, and what have you. The surgery would be to resect the tendon. I think he gets the surgery. And with the surgery, there is an outside chance he returns later in the season if the Cowboys stay alive. And that, at this point, is the biggest if of all. Can the Cowboys stay alive? What a difference it makes. Obviously Cooper Rush did a great job in the past subbing in for Dak Prescott. They were 5-1. But you know what the key difference is? Cooper Rush is the same guy, but Dallas isn't the same team. They can't run the ball. How many quarterbacks can be one-dimensional and be successful? Not very many, including Cooper Rush.
Doc, let's head over to SixScore.com and check out the field view for tonight's Monday Night Football game between the Dolphins and the Rams. First thing I want to ask you about here quickly is the Rams' offensive line. Looking pretty banged up coming into this one.
Well, as banged up as they are, they're actually on the uprise, right? They were really injured and when they had the start of the season. So they're directionally headed in the right direction. Yeah, it still shows on the field view. At this point in the season, we look at SixScore, SportsGrid Central, more direction like deltas. Like we love the direction of the Patriots yesterday. They've been up 8 points over the last 3 weeks, and they beat Chicago there. Even though their score is relatively low, it's the week-to-week deltas that we start to look at now. We'll show you all that at Sports Injury Central. And, of course, the big question today is Tyreek Hill. The only thing I can tell you is I don't know a lot about his wrist injury, but the only thing I can tell you is there's no such thing as a true game-time decision. In the 17 years in the NFL, I never had a true game-time decision. We had game-time confirmations. We think he's going to go. Let's get him out there. Let's make sure. Oh, we think he's not going to go. Let's get him out there. Make sure. But it's a media-driven thing that it's a true game-time decision.
Dr. Chao, as always, the insight is much appreciated. More on the early line next.